Hello and welcome back to my testimony part 2, and I'll explain why it is called the golden thread. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, then I'll put a link in the description. But it's great to see you back here again, and if you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, please subscribe so that you don't miss an episode of my testimony, and you don't miss any of my other YouTube videos. You know, I look back at my life and I can see, long before I was a Christian, I can see God's hand in my life. And I look at my life and we can look at, all of us can look at our lives. We've all got one thing in common. Our lives are imagine this, our lives are like a tapestry with scenes from our lives on that tapestry. And woven throughout that tapestry, woven throughout all of our lives, whether you are a Christian or not a Christian, there's God's golden thread weaving through that tapestry, our tapestry of life. And when you can't see God's golden thread in your life, then turn the tapestry over and you will always find it on the other side. So this episode is about God's golden thread, when I didn't even know it was there, and I can turn that tapestry over and I can see that God was there in my life at times when there was pain, when there was difficulty, when there was struggles. And I'm going to share you some stories. So the first story, I was about maybe 6 years old, and my older brother said, "Hey Brendan, come on, let's play fishing." And I said, "Yeah, okay, that sounds like a fun game." So he said, "You'll be the fish and I'll be the fisherman." And yep, okay, I'll go along with that. Yeah, whatever you say, you're my older brother. And so he put a fishing hook in my mouth attached to a fishing line, which was on a fishing rod, and he yanked the fishing rod like you do when you're catching a fish, and the hook caught in my lip, and I've got a little scar on my lip from it. I just yanked it out, 6 years old, yanked that hook out, and thought, well, that hurt, but didn't think much more of it. You know, and that's probably one of the first violent games or first acts that of brother on brother as I was growing up. My brother used to wind me up all the time and push my buttons. And my mum said, "Don't let him push your buttons. Don't let him wind you up." But he did. He constantly wound me up. We would play violent games. You know, a lot of people have gone paintballing and shot each other. Oh yeah, I've been shot with a paintball. It hurts. Well, we used to shoot each other with air rifles. And so I can see one visible scar on my hand just here. And it always reminds me of the time that I was pinned down behind an apple tree, and my brother could just see my hand sticking out, and he shot me right on that part of my hand. And I've got a scar there to remind me of that. And so I have a lot of scars, and I guess so's my brother got a few from me. I can remember, perhaps it was retaliation, but my dad was doing up this cottage that we lived in, restoring it, renovating it, and a load of old timber, a load of old planks, lumber, if you're in the States listening to this, had been thrown out underneath this plum tree, and the wood had nails in it, and it had been placed carefully down, so the nails were facing down and it wasn't dangerous. But we built a Tarzan swing, a rope swing on this plum tree, and my brother would come out from school every day and run down the garden and jump on this rope swing. And I guess it might have been in retaliation to the fishing hook. One day I thought, I'm going to get him back. And so I cut part of the way through the rope to weaken it. And then when he came home from school, I turned the planks up the other way so the nails were sticking up. And he of course, went onto the rope swing, swang as he normally does. The rope snapped and he landed on his backside on a nail. And I guess he's got a scar there to show for that. We also had motorbikes when we were by the time we were teenagers, and we had some motorbikes, and my parents owned a couple of fields, and we would ride these motorbikes like thought we were some sort of stunt riders around the fields. And my brother liked to pour wheelies, and so that was the way he rode his bike. I would come up and ride around the garden and back down into the field. And one day I came up, went riding around the garden, and all sorts of things on the motorcycle failed. The brakes failed, the clutch failed, the accelerator stuck on, and I found myself flying through the lounge window. And my brother just shouted at me because he was trying to watch the football. He said, "Get out of here, I'm trying to watch the football." But there was me with blood pouring out of my elbow. And I had to have 7 stitches, I remember. So that, this is just part of the way that we grow up. And I look back and I think it was crazy. It really was crazy. I grew up thinking that my brother sabotaged my bike. So I sabotaged his bike and I undid the front wheel, knowing that he liked to pour wheelies. And when he poured the wheelie, the front wheel came off and he went head over heels. And I don't know if he ever suspected me, but he says he didn't sabotage my bike. Another day, he was winding me up, really, really winding me up. And I'd seen my opportunity as he bent down. And as he bent down, there was a cast iron drain pipe. So I picked up that cast iron drain pipe and I smashed it across his back. And yeah, it did smash. I snapped across a cast iron drain pipe across my brother's back, and he went splat on the ground. And I realised that he was quite badly injured. So I ran, and he didn't catch me. So, but another time, and I think this is perhaps the time when he thought, I've got to stop pushing Brendan's buttons because things are getting bad when I do it. And this was perhaps the most savage of episodes of brother on brother. We'd been playing cards at a friend's house, and we were walking home, and we had to walk through an allotment. And as we walked through the allotment, he was winding me up because he'd been cheating. He had been cheating at cards, and I knew he'd been cheating at cards. And he knew that I knew. And because of that, he was winding me up again. Winding. And as we walked through the allotment, like the cast iron drain pipe that was lying on the ground, there was a brick, a house brick, a red house brick, just sat there on the soil in this allotment. And I picked it up and I was angry. My anger was overflowing. I was seeing red. You know what people say about red mist? It is a real thing. You do see this red mist in front of your eyes, and that red mist took over. He was egging me on, saying, come on, then you wouldn't do it. I had the brick over my brother's head, over the top of my brother's head, threatening to smash it on his head. And he didn't think I would, but I did. And blood trickled down from his head. And in an instant, his fist came into my face. And the expression "punch your lights out" is a good way to sum up what happened. He punched, his fist hit me straight in the eye, and instantly my lights went out in that eye. My eye just swelled. It was a huge black eye, the worst black eye I've ever had. And I think that was a moment of truth, a realization point, and the violence between brother and brother. Uh, I think it eased off after that, but it didn't ease off in me. The violence was still in me. The violence got me in trouble uh, more than once or twice. So I'll tell you a few stories about how that violence just manifested in trouble for me. The first story is a story about fireworks, and you hear things about young people throwing fireworks in the street. Well, one day I got off the bus into the bus station, coming home from school, and a friend said, he wasn't really a close friend. He just came up to me and he said, "Hey, Yob Knock." My surname is Conboy, and spelt backwards, it's Yobnock. And the shortened form of that is Yob. And people were calling me Yobnock or Yob for a very long time. And I believe that you become the name that people call you. I am now called a child of God, and that is the name that I prefer. But at this point in my life, people were calling me Yob, and I became a Yob. So this friend of mine, so-called friend, said, "Hey, look, this guy, he's sold his bike and he's just bought a load of fireworks. Do you want to come out with us tonight and have a bit of fun?" And he had an arsenal, basically, of fireworks, 2,000 bangers, and 24 air bomb repeaters. And we went out on the streets and we were seriously terrorizing people, and until the police caught up with us. The local police officer, he caught me first, I think. He threw me into a hedge, and as he did so, he said, "Don't run, punch, or I'll hit you." And I always remember it in that sort of that timeline. Don't run, punch, or I'll hit you. And he did. He hit me, and that was policing in the 70s, 1973. I think that 1973. Yeah, that was what policing was like in rural Britain in the 70s. And I went to court with the others that were terrorizing. It seriously was terrorizing, and the offence on the court summons was contravening the Explosives Act. Ooh, that should have been a wake-up call, but we went to court, got fined, bit of a slap on the wrist. I think we had a suspended sentence or something it was, and that didn't really change things. I was going to football matches, and I didn't really like football, but football brought the worst out in me. So I was going to football matches as a hooligan, just looking for fights, looking for trouble. The last football match I went to, see, people say to me, "Why don't you like football?" And I say, "I don't like what it does to me. I don't like what it brings out of me." And so a lot of people don't understand that. So I'm going to explain. The last football match that I went to, I was with a group of people that were also like me, that wanted to cause trouble. And we weren't true skinheads, but we had skinhead behaviour and terrorising people. And I was supporting Liverpool. On the train up to Derby County, I stole a toilet roll. And when I got off at the train station, the police picked me up straight away, and I got charged for the theft of a British Rail toilet roll. But it was classed as football hooliganism, and I found myself in court with a whole load of football hooligans back in Derby. And so I never wanted that experience again. And that was the wake-up call. That was the last time I went to court as a juvenile. But I carried on, and all that time I was bullying other people. My anger had overflowed into hurting other people, and often people that were bigger than me and older than me. So I was hurting other people, but that didn't, I know that I was bullying because there was things in my life that were out of control, things going on at home that were out of control. I had no control over it, the fear that I was living in. And so you take control of whatever you can take control of, and that is, it starts with other people. You start to try to control other people, and then the pain that's inside of you from the fear that is you're living with, it doesn't go away, and so you create a more painful pain, and that is self-harm. And I started to self-harm, and then that wasn't enough. And by the age I was 14, as I mentioned in the poem in my previous video, I was suicidal, and I wanted to end my life, and I was planning to end my life, but I didn't. And I'll explain that story another time. But I looked through all of these things that I've told you about, and a load more, and I can see God's hand on my life. I fell from some scaffolding. I must have been about 14, 13, and I fell from some scaffolding, and as I put my arm up to grab hold, a bolt caught underneath my armpit and ripped out my armpit, and I had to have 14 stitches then. I could have died because it was right next to an artery when the doctor looked at the wound. The same when I went through the lounge window on my motorbike, just missed an artery. And I look back and I just praise God, because his golden thread saved me. He was present through all that dark time. So in 1986, I invited Jesus into my life, and this is a poem. It's called 1986. Back in 1986, I needed a fix. Not talking about chemicals and party drugs. I'm talking about the greatest spiritual hug. If we're really honest, and that's the only way to be, we all have a spirit that needs to be free. If being spiritual makes you think that I'm a weirdo, then being lyrical breaks your stink to an absolute zero. When I found my fix in 86, something inside me changed. My nature rearranged. Quit thinking I'm deranged. He changed the sound in the mix. Still don't wear a crucifix. He changed the script. Watch my lips. It beats a solar eclipse. So I kick the dirty tricks. No more bricks on my brother's head. I got the fix because he bled. No more dread. He is the bread of life, the thread of sacrifice. I spread the truth like lice because he paid the price. You see, the fix that I had way back then still fills me now again and again. This fix is the filler of men, unless you are mistaken. Forget about the way of Zen. Take you higher than Big Ben, higher than Mount Everest. Depart the way of treacherous. This fix is oh so generous. This fix's name is Jesus. He is the one that frees us. I got my fix in '86, made my pick, and never looked back. Into the light, the right, the white. Shake off the black. Never look back. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for following.